Razor 94.7 104.7.
All right, Mike. Well, how's it going? How are you? How's life?
Good, man. I'm out on tour right now. I'm on an off day, and then tomorrow is our last show of the run. We've been out for about 5 weeks, so I'll apologize in advance that I'm pretty thoroughly fried, but it's been a lot of fun, and obviously playing shows in general. But this tour has been really special with awesome friends, so it's been good. It's been good.
How is it, like going out and doing these runs? It's a lot of high energy stuff. How do you keep yourself, you said you're pretty fried right now, but how do you like work up the energy to get through that hour set or whatever it takes to get through the show? What is that process like for you?
Even like last night, we had a great show up in Rochester, New York, and as I was going on, I was asking myself that exact same question. It By the end of it kind of feels impossible, but I've been doing this half my life, and by the time it's stage time, you kind of find a way, and then you go home, rest up, and reset, and when you start the next one, you feel like you're 16 again for the most part. So it's difficult, but it's taking more time off definitely helps once you're in your early 30s like I am versus 16. But yeah, it's still fun to perform, and a 5 week grind, it gets pretty tough getting older, but you're still performing and don't want to do anything else.
And you said you were out with your friends. You're with Beartooth and Silverstein right now, right? Is that the tour that you're on?
Correct. So I don't know. I didn't know the Beartooth guys super well, but Silverstein did. We've known Silverstein for our entire career, so um, it's all just awesome hangs, great bands. Era's opening, they're a great band too. So it's cool. I can't remember a tour like this and just about any memory where there's so much just hangs all the time and so many like-minded people just getting after it and playing tunes.
So you said you've been doing this for half your life, starting when you're 16. Man, that it blows my mind because I think we're the same age. I'm 32, so I think I found you guys right about the same time you were starting. So that's pretty interesting to think about. But talk about the ups and downs and the ebbs and flows of trying to maintain a sane mind while going through this crazy industry of music performance.
Um, for things get more difficult physically, as you get older, but at the same time, I've um happily sort of tooled myself with the healthy and better habits and exercises to kind of tune up and try to keep my mental health in a better state. Primarily medication and therapy. But the early on, I remember some of my first panic attacks on the road and just having no idea what was happening, and um, just that sheer lack of control, really. Um, I'm happy to report that I've been able to again tool myself with positive and healthy ways to handle it and to keep things in scope. And um, even therapy is a uh, pretty late to the game in those regards. I've only been going for about less than a year and a half. Started during COVID, and it's been really, really wonderful to, as someone that is keeps pretty organized and analytical, and I would like to think of myself as a rather pragmatic individual. Like it's been a really positive and important way to analyze and understand why things are up and why things are down. um, so that's certainly been a lot of help over, didn't have that awareness early on, and it makes all the difference now once you educate yourself.
You touched on something that of all the interviews that we've done so far, no one's really talked a lot about it, and that's medication along with therapy. What how you said you started therapy about a year and a half ago? Is that the same time that you started with the I'm also on a venlafaxine. I can't pronounce it. It gives me anxiety not even be able to say the name of my medication. But I was doing therapy for a couple of years, and I was like, I don't want the pill. No, it's gonna mess with my brain. I'm creative. I need to be, on my game. But ever since I've taken it, it's been like, oh, so this is what everyone else is feeling like. What was kind of that the aha of I'll do that, taking the leap, because it does take a bit of a leap to go and get medicated for this type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I was an angsty teenager growing up, quiet but very inward, and didn't have really any social skills or any social life. I did okay in high school, but I was so terrified of everyone and everything that I was on medication as a kid. And then once I started touring straight out of high school, I hopped off of it and I was doing great. It felt like it was a pretty uh, sort of like easy diagnosis that, school was what had me feeling down all the time and not being able to do what I wanted to do. And, just getting through high school. So, um, fast forward a number of years, started experiencing panic attacks, started experiencing anxiety. Um, you hear it all the time, people being like, oh, that makes me anxious, or that makes, I have anxiety. And it's like, it's not to downplay what other people have or other people's experiences, but when some of those first episodes kick in, it's just this, again, it's a complete lack of control. It's what's happening, what's wrong with me. um and around then, I think I tried a few, so I would definitely encourage people. And my sister was very, as a bachelor's in psychology, um very helpful in helping me to jump between medications, and obviously responsibly, and always with my family doctor and everything. But um yeah, there's, I hate the word stigma, it's so cliche, but it's not like losing your creativity, it's not losing who you are as a person, or it doesn't make you brain dead or anything. It just kind of rounds off the edges to a certain degree when some of those episodes might happen. For me, with being able to cognitively, through therapy and whatnot, understand what is happening during a panic attack and what that is, combined with my medication, I can stave it off and get through it. Just knowing and analyzing and assessing what makes me so stressed out and what's causing that. My therapist told me that, he sometimes considers anxiety misguided energy, and that's gone a long way for me to understand what's happening. But in terms of medication specifically, I just think it kind of just levels the playing field. I don't think that's the right phrase, but it kind of just puts normality or equilibrium in a little bit more of a favorable position when those certain stressors don't have such an effect.
I think leveling the playing field is a good way of saying it, though, because I when I've had the panic attacks and then going and like it's just a little thing, being like a little trigger, and then but our brains go on full bore. Like, I can't keep up with it. I need something that gives me that, like, a competitive edge, if you would, to be able to use those techniques that, like, we've gone to therapy and say, like, well, you challenge your thoughts, you sit down, you do your counting, but sometimes, like, this shit hits you so fast that you can't even think of all that because your mind is moving at a million miles an hour. And that's what I felt when I started taking the medication for it, was like finally being able to get ahead of myself instead of just reacting.
For sure. I definitely think, when anxiety and panic really is, a million miles an hour in terms of what your brain's doing, what's wrong, what's happening, what's like. And, I think, not to speak for everyone, but a lot of the times in many practical situations, you kind of hop over the fundamentals. You kind of hop over the most, you jump over step one and step two because you're already at step 50. I think that medication definitely kind of just slows things down and makes things more approachable, and again more pragmatic, to be able to understand what's happening, and without having any kind of effect to your creativity or to your emotions or your emotional capacity. um, and that's just in my experience. And I can also say that, again, I tried medication that did do that, and sometimes it may be more panicky because I tend to be very hyper aware physically when my body isn't functioning to its best, and having medication that made me nauseous or dizzy would in turn make me double anxious,
Right.
you know.
Dude, that was my first one. I don't remember what it was, but I took it and I was like, oh, I don't feel anxious, but I also feel like this world is spinning and I'm about to fall off of it. And I don't know if I'm supposed to feel that way. But oh man, finding that like sweet spot with it. And then it also makes like doing healthy decisions for your life a lot easier, wouldn't you say?
For sure. I don't even know if it's just blaming it on my age, but as someone that very much feels the repercussions or the recourse after poor decision making in terms of diet or alcohol. um, I know the effects it will have and how brutal it can be. And again, I don't think that's just me getting older, but also just the fact that I am hyper aware physically when I'm just eating junk, or I had too many drinks, or whatever it might be. um, yeah, I don't know if that answers well.
No, it's perfect. It does make you aware, and it's good to be aware of that type of thing because this is the only vessel that we're given in this given life, so we got to take care of it. And when we're young, we kind of feel like I could have 30 beers tonight. That's no problem. What, I got to work tomorrow? Screw it, whatever. But now it's like I had like three, and now I'm bodied for 2 days or something. But it's just like becoming more in tune, and then going to therapy. And when you can, you just say a bunch of words out at someone, and it's like a plate of spaghetti, and they can just kind of help you guide your way into like, aha, that's the root cause of this panic attack, or that's why I'm feeling anxious about this moment.
Exactly. Like I sometimes use the analogy, or the, like, it kind of feels like when you go into therapy, like you're a bunch of knots, and it's painful and tedious to pull both ends of the rope harder and harder, but by the end of it, the knots subside and you have a clean thing. So you have to earn it, and it takes a lot of energy and involvement, of course. But I found that it's gone such a long way for me, and really breaking down all my habits back uh, to childhood. And your parents never wish to screw you up, but the fact of the matter, like, there are buttons that are created when you're young, and things that you just never heal, you never realize is there, and then by way of a bunch of different other steps and layers, that same button is still being pressed. And I think with involvement and putting the time and energy into therapy, you can really get a better idea of why that button is being pressed, and why that wound is festering. And I certainly encourage it entirely to anyone to give it a try. I kind of stepped into therapy almost as an ultimatum in a relationship, or it was an ultimatum in a relationship I was in. And it was kind of something for me. It was like, well, I'll try it because I have nothing to lose. Like, I don't need it. I had a therapist as a kid in high school, hated it. And like, it was a terrible situation. And that I basically spoke with this man, and he would kind of be like, well, why is that? And it's like, you
That
tell me,
doesn't help.
boss.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, so I lucked out in that, as an adult, the person I speak with has been a home run. I've never for a second thought, oh, I need to speak with someone else because this dude doesn't get me. But I'm sure that in any situation where if you reach out, and a lot of cool tools online to do, I just Zoom my therapy and whatnot. Um, it's just like medication, it's worth playing around with. And um it sounds obvious, but it's never you that's the problem. It's swapping the medication, or changing the dosage of the medication, or finding a different person to speak with that might understand you better and understand the root causes of why, what you're struggling with. So I kind of wish I that was, you hear so much of like, let's talk about our mental health, let's talk, like you're not alone and whatnot. And I sometimes see that online, and I almost it kind of irritates me, because again, I feel like step one and step two are kind of jumped over, and people reaching out for help and whatnot, when like just some really easy fundamental things to keep in mind is that like medication isn't like giving in, it's not surrender. In sort of ending that stigma, just the same as therapy is the exact same thing. It's not that you're a problem or something like that. Like all these are just easy, healthy tools. Not easy, but accessible tools to to make things easier and make the day smoother.
Yeah, I really I the online community, for as much as it sucks, a lot of it is cool. In that that's how I do my therapy as well, as over I do teledoc. So it's basically the same thing. But I remember when I was, in my 20s, early 20s, in college and stuff, and like feeling the same way that I was feeling right before I went and got therapy and started doing all these things. And I wished, like, you can't go back in time, obviously, but I wish that like the 20-year-old version of me would have listened to anyone and been like, bro, just go and talk to someone, man. Like that's not normal. That's not, well, it's not normal, but like it's not, you don't need to live that way. And I think talks like this are really helping, because I mean, just talking to people about, like, in the industry, people talking, just me and the guy down the hallway about it. It's so liberating to be able to talk openly about it without worrying about someone be like, this friggin' guy.
For sure. I mean, I I came to a point where it was unfortunate, because it was like I have nowhere else to turn in terms of getting help for the mental, um I don't know, the state that I'm in, who I am as a person, when in fact it shouldn't have been like I have nowhere to go or I have nowhere else to go. It should have been easier to just be like, to come to terms with things not as like a last means or as like a surrender. I think that's one thing I've picked up on well in getting older, is not take generally not taking things so personally all the time, but just being like there's no shame in susceptibility or vulnerability, and in terms of where you might feel shame and whatnot, like that's something that's probably a really good thing to talk about with someone, to realize why that's a button for you, in terms of feeling that shame, or in terms of openness and whatnot. So um I don't know, it's certainly presented in a way that I really don't think is sustainable in terms of where we are as people and how we live our lives these days, compared to generations before us, and seeing, boomers' health issues or what they've gone through, versus, down to us, and then down to, the next one, or Gen Z and whatnot. So I don't know. I think we're getting to a better place with it. And in terms of being open and letting down your defense, I think it goes a long way for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, just think how nice it would have been had therapy been free in like 1967, huh? That would have been
Yeah,
great.
it's
uh,
it's like, sorry, what was the point I wanted to make? It will come back to me. Again, end of tour. I'm on some of my last thread.
sure, yeah. While you're gonna get done with tour, then what are you gonna do? What do you have planned for yourself? You just gonna relax? How do you recuperate after 6 weeks or 5 weeks out on the road?
Uh, I love being home, and I love my home specifically, not to idolize it, but I love my community. I love playing hockey, so I'll be skating again as soon as I can, which is goes a long way, physical activity in terms of, your mental health. So I look forward to doing that. I love cooking. I love house plants. I love
my
woodworking as a
my
hobbyist.
wife is a big plant person, and sorry to cut you off there, but
No, no.
we are being gifted plants. Like, she's a rescuer of these home plants, these house plants. So we have like a wall that's just like this plant that she got from someone like 7 years ago, and it's just grown. And now we just bought a house, and people are like bringing over plants that are like on the verge of death, and they're like, please help it. And yeah, house plants are just the best for it because it's so like peaceful, just putting some water in, and it's just great.
It is. It's such a fun routine. And I've done some of the same things. Like, I'll go to the hardware store and I'll buy like the $2 plant that's dying and be like, can I resuscitate this thing?
Sure.
But yeah, I sort of pride myself on a very ordinary life when I'm home and just enjoy, um, getting warm. Are you in Green Bay?
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Okay,
I'm
I
in
live.
Appleton, so but
Oh, okay. I live in Milwaukee.
oh, right on,
So
man.
yeah, so I've been everywhere lately, but it looks like spring is blooming in beautiful Wisconsin. So
Finally, yeah, it is 50 degrees today, and I think that's the first time we've reached that in a couple of weeks. So
I'll be back in 2 days.
nice.
Look forward to it. And yeah, that's kind of my key these days, is to really just step away and reboot.
Gotcha. Well, I really appreciate your time and to talk about all this stuff, and you know, find some, yeah, like we said, the cliche of the stigma. We don't want to, but it's still a thing. It's still every day we kind of got to put our brave face on and do what we do, and just be open with each other and try to make this place a better place to live.
Certainly. I entirely agree, Decker.